Alright. Should be up. Should be going. There we go. Okay. This takes a moment. Alright. So, back to Umineko. We left off. Burn Castle has a plot for us, some sort. It was Burn Castle was talking to Angie, talked her into turning into Angie Beatrice, where she summoned Eva Beatrice, who summoned a bunch of goats who were disbelieving of the fantasy genre, mystery genre, all sorts of stuff, and basically started tearing apart this whole after party thing that Battler has set up. And they started a big old brawl fight, some sort of event. And now we are currently residing with Battler and Angie, as they, I believe, are challenging each other to a closed room puzzle. Yeah, this makes sense in some sort of way. I'm not just rambling and spouting out weird things. So Angie wants to open up the book to figure out the truth, and people want to stop her for some reason, because she can't handle it, it doesn't exist, something like that. Not entirely sure. Either way, here we are. Hachijo chuckled, pushed aside the pile of writing paper, and picked up the book of the single truth. Oh yeah, right, Hachijo, Aurora, the lady who's written the fragments, the Witch of Theater going or what have you, was having trouble writing the truth. She keeps writing illusion and more interesting tales. Then she opened a locked drawer. That is what Angie desires. Perhaps this book's seal is fated to be broken. Angie will reach the single truth. The single truth will break the seal on the cat box, and everything will be exposed to the light of day. And so, all of those countless message bottles and fragments made up of delightful imaginings, which have been scattered across the ocean of the internet, will fade away like foam on the sea. After all, even that person has surely tired of such fragments. It's about time for that kid's journey to end too. Yes, let us accept this task. As our role demands, let's give this journey an end of the line. At that moment, there were sounds of someone in the hallway. The instant someone knocked on the door, Burncastle turned back into a black cat. Madam Hachijo, please forgive me for interrupting. It was the voice of Hachijo's servant. What is it? If it's a phone call, tell them I'm busy. It isn't that. Toya-sama has woken up. Thank you. Prepare a light meal. Enough for the two of us. As you wish. Hachijo stood up. Then she shut the open drawer and locked it again. Inside that drawer lay a glittering gold key. Repeat it. The definition of a closed room prevents all varieties of entering and exiting. I refuse. By definition, it's impossible for a closed room murder to take place inside a perfect closed room. The chain might have been repaired after it was destroyed. The door might have been repaired after it was destroyed. The wall might have been repaired after it was destroyed. My closed room doesn't involve anything being repaired. Kitta? This really is getting fun, Battler-san. Sorry, but I don't have time to play with you right now. I'm sorry too. As a fellow witch of truth, I can't let you get in Anji-san's way. Come to think of it, you're a witch of truth too, aren't you? I guess that makes you a sort of mentor to Anji. The single truth. It is the supreme, the ultimate. Only a witch of truth can break down all barriers that stand between her and that truth. Is this single truth of yours really so important? There are lots of things in this world that aren't worth knowing. How important is 1986 to Anji, really? It isn't important at all. I disagree. You're probably right. No matter what happened or didn't happen in 1986, it won't change anything for the Anji living in 1998. There's no point in learning that truth. However, there is just one thing that will change. What's that? How she lives. Erika transformed her reasoning into a scythe blade and lashed out at Battler over and over. Battler also created a blade from his reasoning and attacked Erika over and over. In the middle of all this, he questioned Erika, the girl who, like Anji, called herself a witch of truth. Just what is the point of exposing the truth? That's a question. You're right. Knowing often changes how a person lives her life. In that case, I have one hope as her blood relative. I hope that at the end of my game, Anji finds a better way to live her life. Knowing may change how people live, but not always in a good direction. There are plenty of things in this world that you'd be more comfortable not knowing. The number of tricks living in the seats on the train, those urban legends about nasty stuff laying in the tap water. The world's full of things you'd be better off not knowing. Ignorance is bliss, huh? The book of the single truth probably can teach Anji what happened on this island. But what's the point of her knowing that? It'll just increase the sadness she's felt for 12 years. How many more years will it take for her to find happiness as an ordinary girl? How many years will it take for her wounds to be healed? First step is accepting. Anji's desire to find the truth is hurting her, regardless of what the truth actually is. Though her deep wounds were slow to heal, they did begin to do so during those 12 years. However, Anji kept picking at the scabs. In her search for the truth, she tore at those wounds herself, opening them up once more. It's time for Anji to be free of the sadness of 1986. That's what all of us Ushirimiyas pray for. Who cares about that? The truth is everything. The truth is justice. It's a disease everyone gets at least once, usually in middle school. They just love to find out all those things adults are hiding. Don't you think it's fun to expose things like that? Yeah, totally. Reading dirty books wouldn't be nearly so fun if you didn't have to do it in secret. I deny all of your blue witches with the red truth. None of the methods you suggest could defeat my closed room. Anji was breathing heavily. The book of the single truth was right before her eyes. If she could just defeat Beato, she'd be able to break the book to Burn Castle, and then she could read what was inside. even though the truth of the final family conference on October 4th and 5th of 1986 was right there. The Golden Witch stood in her way. Her anger and hatred spun around inside her head, wiping out the composure necessary for theory-making. Angie shook her head several times, clearing away everything that got in the way of calming her mind. However, no matter how many times she thought it through, the closed room ceiling her in the chapel was perfect. Angie wasn't particularly familiar with the mystery genre. However, she knew about all the fragments containing Beato's games so far. Her knowledge was shallow, but it should still have been enough to give her a good foothold. However, no matter how many blue truths she shot at Beato, none of them ever made the witch flinch. Beato just blew them apart with a red truth and an elegant wave of her pipe. It's about time you gave up. I don't even view this as a game between the two of us. Are you implying that I could never solve this puzzle? I'm just buying time until Balor finishes dealing with Erika. He's the only one who can bring you to your senses. Bring me to my senses? You're the ones making me do this by hiding the single truth. That's why I'm fighting you. This is my right. As the final member of the Umineko family, I have a right to know the truth. Indeed. And that is the purpose of this final game. That's right. Without this final game, I wouldn't have been given a chance to reach the truth. At least for that one thing, I'm grateful. But as for what happened in 1986, as for who took your relatives and your family away from you, as a human, your desire to know the truth is quite natural. However, even knowing this, Balor decided that it would be best if you didn't return to 1986. Balor decided it would be better for her. People have the right. This is starting to grate in my core beliefs. I know what Oni-chan's trying to say. He's telling me to look to the future and live, instead of being stuck in the past, right? Correct. Balor wanted to use this final game to show you that. In that case, there's no need to keep waiting for my answer. The answer is no, Golden Witch. I died back in 1986. I have wandered about like a ghost for 12 years since then. And when Activa died, I lost my only reason to stick around on this earth as a ghost. That's why I decided to do one last thing before ending my life. And that thing is learning the truth of 1986? Yeah. Got a problem with that? Of course I do, you foolish girl. So if you do reach the truth, you'll die. In that case, I can't let you have it. I must trick you and blind you as much as I can, to keep you alive. Balor wants you to live. Living without truth is no better than dying. I'm trying to find the truth so I can live. You just admitted that you were searching for the truth so you could die. Yeah, that's right. Then let me rephrase that. I'm trying to find the truth so I can die. I offered up my life when I made my contract with Burncastle. Also, I could learn what happened that day. That single truth will be the souvenir I take with me to hell. It's useless. You cannot break this closed room. This closed room is perfect. And yet I will kill you in this closed room. She had tried every theory, idea, and every bit of nonsense she could think of. However, none of it had any effect on Beato. Powerless and frustrated with the book of the single truth right before her eyes, Angie bit her lower lip. At first, this was supposed to be a game in which you were given a key that would let you decide your future. Liar. You wanted to hide the truth in this chapel, then make me choose a door that leads to some optimistic future. That's not a choice. You're trying to decide for me. That's what it is. Parents have the right to prevent their children from making unsuitable choices. I'm not a kid. I'm an 18-year-old woman who can think and act for herself. Fool. You're just a 6-year-old girl who can't think of anything except the past. And whose fault is that? Because of you, I've been stuck as a 6-year-old all this time. Now it's time for me to tear apart your illusion covering the truth. Yes, now that I think about it, it's not this chapel that you've locked me inside. Since that day in 1986, all these years you've had me locked away in a closed room where I'm all alone, and where no one will tell me the truth. And now, I'll tear your clothes from apart with my own hands. Yeah, it's useless. It's all useless. I know the trick to your perfect closed room. Repeat it. You murdered me immediately after shutting me in this closed room. I refuse. Of course. You've been killing me for 18 years. Thanks, Beatrice. If you hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't have figured out the trick. Angie, you are young and you have a long future ahead of you. In fact, you are the golden witch who lives in the future, are you not? Then live on in the future. Just how much are past truths really worth? Don't they pale in comparison to the truth of the future? The truth you'll create yourself? My life is trash. My whole family died, leaving just me behind. That's why I'm going back to them once I've gotten my single truth. If you learn the truth, you'll just have to accept your family's death. Haven't you ever thought about living on, hoping that by that some miracle one of them might have survived, and that someday you might get a chance to see them again? I'm not worried about that. Even the Witch of Miracles couldn't find a fragment like that. In the Great Rakajima explosion, almost none of the family's remains were recovered. Some days I hoped that this might be a sign that they had escaped the explosion and survived. The hope gave me the strength to live on. However, that hope wasn't strong enough to support me for 12 long years. So, even though I wanted to know the truth, I unconsciously averted my eyes. I felt that learning of my family's deaths for certain would force me to deny any possibility of someone miraculously surviving. But I'm tired of living on and on with nothing but that impossible hope of a miracle to keep me going. That's why I decided to accept my family's death. I decided to accept the truth, no matter what it is. That's why I became a witch of truth. How foolish. To be blinded by the truth of the past and unable to see one's own future. Forgive me, Battler. I was not strong enough to guide your sister properly. A blazing blue wedge appeared in Angie's hand. It was long, thick, and shaped like a spear. This is the end, Witch of 1986. This closed room is perfect. Therefore I can't get out and you can't lay a finger on me from the outside. However, you locked me in this room. So we can say you killed me with this simple trick. You shut me in this perfect closed room and made me starve to death. Since you intentionally did this, it's totally fair to say this is the closed room murder with you as the killer. It looks like being overly vague with the cause of death backfired on you. So long, Witch of Illusions. See you in heaven. With a stained glass window behind her, Beato spread her arms and let the spear of the blue truth pierce her. The blue spear seemed to crucify Beato against the window. Game set. So, this is Antiva's diary, the book of the single truth. Angie picked the book up from where it lay on the altar, sealed in crystal. If you read that, then by your contract with Burncastle you will die. Learning the truth just to die? Ridiculous! That's right. I'm looking for the truth so I can die. At least let me choose how I go. I'm not an idiot. I know the real me is still floating in that starry sky. Burncastle acknowledged me as the final Beatrice and invited me on a journey to learn the truths of 1986. I won't be able to return here again. When Burncastle told me that and walked off the roof into the black sky, I followed her into the empty air. That was the contract. I wanted two things from Burncastle. One was for someone from my family to come back. The other was revenge. I wanted to destroy the illusion of the witch that had hid the events of that day. I wanted to reach the truth. However, the first of my wishes couldn't come true. After all, even the Witch of Miracles couldn't find a fragment where my family came home. So she wordlessly questioned me. She told me that I couldn't reach the truth unless I had the courage to end this worthless life, where I lived like a ghost, hoping someone might come back. So, she walked out in the open air, and I followed her. Yes, now I can understand. When I offered to trade away my life, I made one wish and gave up on another. I wished for revenge against the illusion hiding the truth. And now, I've succeeded in that revenge, defeating the master of that illusion and obtaining the book of the single truth. What I gave up was my naivety, my continuing belief that someone from my family might come back. And now, I can accept that my entire family is dead. Can you make someone alive just because no one knows any different? These cat boxes you talk about are just naive delusions. The idea that a corpse can live as long as you keep it hidden. But even if you hide a corpse, it's still dead. Do you really think you can heal my wounds by saying you'll always be watching over me from the clouds? Like some kind of fairy tale? I'm Angie Beatrice, a witch of truth. I'll free myself from that life as a ghost, waiting for a miracle that'll never happen. I'll end my life as a noble martyr who's reached the truth. Didn't you once come to understand the power of magic through Maria's grimoire? Yeah, I understood it. And then I despaired when I realized how powerless it was. And that's what Oni-chan is trying to force me to use now, isn't it? If I believe, if I use magic, then my family will always be by my side. Don't take me for a fool. You think that kind of magic, an illusion, a daydream can heal those 12 years? And how am I supposed to go on for decades and decades into the future? Someone, come back to me. Someone. But no one's coming back. So at least tell me what happened that day. Burncastle said she'd tell me. My master, I have the book of the single truth. I'll take it back to you, so give me the truth. For so long I've been prepared to throw away my naive hopes for a miracle. Now, tell me the truth of that day. A blinding light poured out of the chapel. It seeped from the windows and the cracks of the door, even reaching as far as Battler's and Erika's eyes. What? It seems Comrade Angie has completed her task. It looks like you've set up some pathetic seal. But to my master, that'll be easier than thawing frozen sorry fish. Damn. Master said I could play with you until Angie finished her task. I've had enough fun from this reunion, so I think it's time for me to leave. Erika gave an elegant curtsy. Why did you talk Angie into looking for the single truth? Your master must know. That truth doesn't mean anything to Angie. Yes. All truths in this world are meaningless. In the end, meaning comes from the mind of each individual human. Even when there is a single truth, it can mean different things to different people. The truth has no meaning in itself. There's just one reason why I'm still stuck on the truth despite it all. Because you're the detective. Gyutta. But Angie-san isn't a detective. To her, the truth itself is the finish line, a way to mark the end of her unhappy life. Now, she's finally finished the final purification ceremony. She's a one-night witch of truth, focused on learning a certain single truth before she dies. A temporary witch for the short time until she slams against the ground. I won't let Angie die. No matter how tough it gets, she has to live. That's the only thing all of us want. If she lives, all sorts of magic and miracles would be possible. If only you put her arm around her shoulder and told her that directly, you might not have lost. What do you think? Just by hearing you howl, this level of reasoning is possible for Furuta Erika. Live, Angie. I can't do those. He yelled towards the chapel, but Angie probably wasn't even there anymore. Battler's yell was swallowed by the empty pitch-black sky and the sea of rampaging goats. Comrade Eva, our mission is complete. Let's withdraw. Oh, are we done already? I was just about to tear the island apart with my own Eva culprit theory. Eva appeared in midair and cackled. I'm sorry, Battler-kun, that I wasn't strong enough. For 12 years, I protected that kid in my own way. I'm grateful. However, she's decided this for herself. She's 18 years old now. Don't you think people should decide how they live their own lives? Sorry for being a doting big brother. Later. I'm Lady Berncastle's piece at the moment. It's time for me to go. I'll see you later, Comrade Eva. Eva held her palm open and a small, pointy blue fragment appeared there. The fragment burst, and with a blinding flash of light, Eva vanished. It was the same light that had seeped out of the chapel earlier. Pieces cannot leave the game board. However, the Voyager witches alone could come and go. This was probably some sort of magic that Berncastle had given them. Erika opened her palm as well, and the same sort of fragment appeared there. That's enough for now, I think. Who knows? This might be the last time we meet. Wait, we haven't settled our fight yet. If he could steal the fragment in Erika's hand, he'd be able to go to where Berncastle was. The seal surrounding the Book of the Single Truth would probably be melted easily with Berncastle's power. However, even so, it would take her some time. If he could seal that fragment, he would have a chance at bringing Angie back. What is there to settle? Time's up. However, if you feel like taking one last hit, I'd be happy to oblige. Battler had known that Erika wouldn't be able to resist the challenge. After all, he already knew what her trick was. He'd figured it out just a second ago. Even while he spoke with Erika, he had been thinking about it inside his mind. He could finish her with his last strike and take the fragment. Let's go, Erika. This will decide it. This clash will be the last before I go. So go ahead and give me the craziest of your hilarious theories. Your closed room definition stated walls, windows, floor, ceiling, and chain were all unbeatable. However, there was one possibility that I didn't check, because it was too ridiculous. And that was whether or not the chain could be set from the outside. Blue truth. This is the answer to your closed room. The length of the chain. The chain for your closed room was extra long, so it was possible to set and unset it from the outside the room. What a ridiculous answer. However, if you blindly assume that a lock made by an unbreakable chain makes a closed room unbeatable, then this truly would be a perfect closed room. The blue wedge flung from Battler's hand plunged straight into Erica's chest. As she winced in pain, her hand shook, and the fragment she held flew into the air. The closed room definition stated that the walls, windows, floor, door, and chain were all unbeatable. However, wasn't there one really ridiculous thing missing? Blue truth. Your closed room had no ceiling, so it was possible to enter by climbing over the wall. Erica's blue scythe swung out from behind her back, catching Battler in the side as he stretched his hand out towards the fragment. Battler's hand didn't reach it. The fragment returned to Erica's hand once more. It looks like her tricks were equally ridiculous. The mystery nuts would have been furious, don't you think? But I disagree. To me, the process of exposing that ridiculousness is ecstasy. That's why I'm through to Erica, the detective. Damn it. I figured out the answer a while back, didn't you? Not true. I thought it up between the time you let loose your blue truth and the time you stretched your hand out to grab the fragment. I've just been buying time since the beginning. I only started reasoning a second ago. Erica broke the crystal barrier that surrounded them. Then she flew high up into the sky, looking down on Battler and laughing at him as you gave a final bow. So long, Battler-san. Even if this has been my only time to shine. Even if I've outlived my usefulness and I'm about to be thrown back into the depths of oblivion. Even so, I have no regrets. Wait. Like she'd actually wait just because they told her to. With a blinding flash, Erica vanished. Angie had retrieved the Book of the Single Truth and returned to Burn Castle. Battler and the others had no way to leave the game board. Everything had come to an end. A gold butterfly flitted by, and Beato appeared. My apologies, Battler. I let Angie get away. I'm sorry too. We've let them escape. It's all over. Battler had created this game for Angie. Now that Angie was gone, the game board no longer had any purpose. And even if that hadn't been the case, the game board itself had been chewed to bits by the goats, and was now like a single leaf floating on a sea of nothingness. Thanks to Gertrude and Cornelius' seals, the mansion was protected from the second floor up. The door to the Golden Land was now open wide enough for a child to slip through. The smaller people like Maria and Sakataro went through it. My friend, I believe the door is opening at a quicker pace. Indeed. To my eyes as well, it seems to be so. Father, is the door open yet? It looks like they're about to break in through the windows. Kraus-sama, there is no need for you to fear. An Eisern Jungfrau barrier is not so easily broken. Very soon it will be big enough for adults to go through too. Don't worry, we'll make it in time. But there's knocking and banging everywhere and... Stay calm and wait. After all, there is nothing else we can do. Even the outer walls of the mansion were covered with goats. and they were plunging their fangs and fists into the walls and windows, trying to crush them. So anyone watching the goats stuck to all the windows in the hallway, smashing their thick arms against the windows, couldn't help but be terrified, even if they knew about the barrier. However, anyone watching the group of goats gathered at the top of the big staircase on the other side of the barrier would probably feel a different emotion. Rather than terror, it was a sad, empty sort of emotion. The barrier was drawn across the landing at the top of the hall's great staircase. Beyond that barrier, everything had already been eaten away. Was it even possible for those who stood in the hallway of the upper floors to believe that this was the Rakanjima mansion? By now, no one looking at this scene would be able to imagine such a thing. Forget the hall or even the whole first floor. Even the ground itself was almost gone. The sea of goats had eaten everything apart long before this. They had eaten apart the hall, the pillars of the mansion, the floor, the ground, the sea, the very concept of the island. Every part of the game board Battler had created. And now the only leftover was the upper part of the mansion, which floated along in empty space. How pitiful. To what do you refer? The goats, in their eagerness to chew this island apart, have eaten up even the ground they stood on, dropping themselves into nothingness. This had once been a huge entrance hall. Beyond it had been a vast rose garden. There had been so many places to stand upon. However, now, holes had been dug everywhere, and nearly everything outside the mansion was completely gone. Some goats were clutching to the few remaining footholds and pillars still eating away at them. Let it be known that exposing the truth is murder. Why can't humans live without killing, I wonder? Throughout their long history, so many have prayed for miracles, but in the end, they eat up their own chances at receiving them, eating up the very ground they stand on and falling into the abyss. They saw a goat chewing the same pillar that was holding it up. It was unsurprisingly fell into empty blackness along with the goat. Humans are sad creatures fated to live in order to learn. If learning means eating away at the same hopes and dreams that keep you alive, that would mean humans are born just so they can die. We're taught that we have to live. However, almost everything that we accomplish in life ends up killing us. Don't think about it. You'll just get a headache. As a single human, I want to ask, is learning a sin? Is living in ignorance the only way we can have hopes and dreams? Both living with knowledge and living in ignorance have their benefits, as well as their shortcomings. You're even free to choose which path you take. That's what makes humans powerless. While people can learn, they cannot unlearn. And so, the all-knowing God has stepped in for the sake of humans who cannot unlearn, marking out things that should be learned and things that should not be learned. Too much curiosity can kill your hopes and dreams. Humans are pitiable beings who are unable to simply avoid those things that should not be learned. Lord Battler can hardly be blamed for failing to teach Angie this. And now Angie's gone. This game is over. Struck dumb by Will's words, everyone fell silent. Only the sound of the goats eating everything away rang out hollowly. Even if they escaped to the Golden Land, the goats of emptiness would probably chew into that realm as well. Even if they got away for the time being, nothing would be resolved. It was all set in stone now. They had no way to resist the future's violent attempts to tear the cat box of the past open. In that case, we must stay alive. If a human's foolishness makes them throw away their own hopes and dreams in the end, then I want to believe in those things until the last second. Your resolve is impressive. I'm the one held by Beatrice's of a million worlds. So even at times like this, I have to be everyone's hope. I'm not giving up on this game yet. By which you mean, I'll keep waiting, believing in a miracle until the last second. So they keep struggling on and on until it's all over. That's right. After all, last time when we were surrounded by a pack of terrifying cats, we were prepared for death, weren't we? But Lambda Delta-san saved us. If we had given up, if we hadn't had the strength to believe in a miracle. Well, it's not like I really saved you. Not like Fern just failed to kill you properly. Or it might have been some whim of hers. A miraculous whim from the Witch of Miracles. How long had she been there? The whole time. Lambda Delta was leaning on the handrail of the staircase, eating popcorn. She held the cup of popcorn out, but Leon declined the offer. Battler-kun told us. He said Angie-chan made a contract by which she would learn the truth in exchange for her own life. Knowing about your conversation just now, that was no contract. After all, living and seeking the truth so they can die is what humans do anyway, right? In other words, Angie spent all of her life trying to learn the truth. All Byrne did was shorten that time to a single instant. When Angie-chan lost her hopes and dreams, she stopped valuing her own life. How can she be given hopes and dreams again? What can be done to help her find a reason for living? Are you asking me? I'm paper, right? Double-twisted curly super paper. I don't understand complicated stuff. After tossing the last bits of popcorn into her mouth, Lambda Delta threw the empty cup into the abyss of nothingness. Byrne wasn't really pushing that kid to do something she didn't want. She was giving Angie a chance. Or should I call it a choice? Then Angie made the choice she wanted, appeared on the game board, and now, in her game against Battler, she's making her own choices again. From start to finish, Angie's game has always belonged to Angie. Right now, I'm just a casual observer. So, not a particularly enthusiastic observer. Maybe. It's a play with an obvious ending, so I've decided I might as well take my leave. You mean you'll stop watching the play just because you think you know how it will end? Even though it might reach a climax you didn't expect? Lambda Delta licked her salty fingers. Then she stared at Leon challengingly and grinned. I know that Angie's game won't end this way. I know Battler-kun's feelings will reach her. She'll understand that he wants her to live in a better future, and she'll choose that future of her own accord. I'm certain that's how this tale will end. Are you talking to me, the Witch of Certainty, and saying that the outcome is certain? That's right. I guarantee it. Angie-chan's game won't end like this. So please, don't leave your seat. We won't leave either. There must be something we can do. And that will surely lead her to a better future. This tale will definitely have a happy ending. So keep watching until the end. I beg you. Even though I've already announced as the Witch of Certainty that this tale won't have a happy ending, the definition of a happy ending is something everyone watching gets to decide for themselves, right? For a while, there was a tense silence. With a confident gaze that seemed to be saying, "Are you serious?" Lambda Delta stared at Leon. However, Leon's eyes didn't even twitch. For some time, they both stared into each other's eyes without flinching. Suddenly, Lambda Delta let out a large sigh and stretched. Well, I have nowhere to be. Sure, I'll stick around a bit longer. If you get me some more popcorn, that is. I'm feeling like caramel flavor this time. If you come to the Golden Land, we'll serve you as much as you like. Lambda Delta waved at them with a thin smile. No one was quite sure what this meant, but it apparently signified her surrender in her own way. Okay, if you'll guarantee your own flavor of happy ending with certainty, then I, the Great Lambda Delta, will stick around for a while longer. See how big my heart is? As wide as Lake Biwa. That's pretty thin, actually. And as dense as the Sea of Japan. That is a very rough sea. Please allow us to speak. It would seem she meant it the other way around. There was some muffled laughter. Lambda Delta is the witch who gives strength to those who possess unshakable willpower. Leon believed in a happy ending, and that certain enthusiasm might have been enough to earn a small miracle from Lambda. You better not let me get bored, okay? If you do, I'll leave right away. Of course. I'm sure Battler-kun will be glad to welcome you as well. Leon understood. In order to fight back against Bernkessel, who had taken Angie outside the board, they would need the power of another who was capable of leaving the board. Their last hope was to make sure Lambda Delta didn't abandon this game. However, judging by Lambda Delta's expression as she hummed to herself cheerily, actually asking her for help was probably going to be a problem. Look, Zepar. Everything from the first floor down is gone. What a spectacle! Not a sight you see every day. How have matters progressed upstairs? Ah, right. We came here to tell you that. Hey, everyone. Sorry to keep you waiting. They say the door to the Golden Land has opened. Finally. Let us go. This place will not be safe for long. Everyone who had been sitting on the staircase got up. I guess this is goodbye, Rakunjima the Beautiful. True. It may be a shadow of its former self, but this is the last time we'll see it, isn't it? What's with that gloomy attitude? Come on, show me, okay? Let's see a happy ending. Umineko no Naku Kodo Nichiro, the Nocturne of Truth and Illusions. They're combining ideas and concepts. That are separate ideas. The book of the single truth was sealed in crystal by Battler. Until the seal is undone, I can't even stick the key in the keyhole. You can remove this, right? Of course. They were in a vast, dimly lit space. To sum it up in a phrase, it was like a trench in the ocean floor. No, it's not quite right. It was a library. However, the number of books and the height of the shelves vastly surpassed all of those that existed in the world of humans. If height is the measure of greatness, then the gods must surely be giants taller than the mountains. This place appeared to be a library big enough and grand enough for such gods. Each individual book was no larger than those from the human world. However, the shelves holding them stood like the walls of a valley, or rather a deep sea ocean trench. So, Angie and the others looked a little like little more than a few small butterflies who had wandered into this vast library, like minuscule deep-sea fish swimming about all alone in an ocean pit. This is more like ice than a seal. You just steal it away from Battler and put it under the rays of the sun. It will fade away by itself as time passes. Isn't there some way to just smash it open? Do you thaw your frozen fish by smashing it with a hammer? You can. Sorry, I was always terrible in cooking class. Kitties, thaw the seal. When Berncastle whispered from the dark ocean pit deep below them, several emerald green glints appeared and gathered like a school of fish. Berncastle threw the book of the single truth down to them, and only after several seconds passed, the school of fish seemed to gather around it and carry it away. Those few seconds made it clear just how deep this bookshelf trench went. Andrew was once again dumbfounded by this unimaginably vast and godly library. We can just let them handle the rest. And you really will let me see what's inside? If that is your wish, I'll grant it. And of course, I won't be able to read it myself without that key of yours. Angie silently gripped the golden key in her pocket. This journey had been so long and so strange. In search of the truth from 12 years ago, I left my home, met President Okanogi, met Amakusa, and at some point that adventure became wrapped in the illusion of the witch. However, here I am. Ushimiya Iva's diary is here. The truth inside it is sitting right before me. Rest for a while. Even I don't have enough free time to spend it all with you. Well, I'm not really tired. Erika, serve Angie some tea or something. Yes, my master. Erika popped into existence out of nowhere and bowed to her master. Berncastle, if you're planning to use me to steal both the key and the book, you won't get off easy. How dare you say such a thing to my master? Sorry. After my long experience with witches, I've decided not to trust normal words. Very well. I'll promise it with the red truth. When the seal on the book of the single truth is dissolved, you and you will be the first to read it. Is that good enough for you? No. For some time, and you considered the witch's words, searching for some sort of trap hidden within them. It. There's no guarantee greater than a witch's red truth, and you understood this well enough. If you started to doubt even this red truth, there would be nothing left to trust in this entire world. If she began to suspect even this, then even the truth would no longer be truth. Is there something more you want? No, I'm fine. If she wanted to read the book of the single truth, she would need Berncastle's assistance. And she finally realized that she had nothing to gain by complaining more and annoying this witch further. Once you've dissolved the barrier, call me right away. Of course. I also want to read it as soon as possible. I'll call for you at once. Burn spun away from them, then vanished into the dark bookshelf trench. Angie saw a school of emerald green fish appear and follow behind Berncastle. Could those be her familiars? As she stared at the emerald lights that resembled some sort of deep-sea fish, Angie was poked from behind. Let's go, Comrade Angie. You're creeping me out, so please just call me Angie. Then you can call me Erika-sama. Let's get going, Comrade Erika. The pair began to swim in the direction Erika indicated. Swim seemed a better word for it than fly. Just, what is this place? It's way too big to be called a library. It's not like you'll be able to remember its name, so why not just call it the library? I'll decide what I can or can't remember. Tell me. It's the great witch of theater-going drama and spectating's noble city of carefully selected books. Yeah, the library works fine. I knew you'd say that. The city of books. Yeah, the name fits. The bookshelves on either side of this canyon are skyscrapers. If I think of those emerald green lights flowing beneath us as headlights on a highway, then this really does seem like a city of books. These aren't normal books, are they? That's right. Each volume is packed with an ensemble play. They look like books from here, but if you open one up, you'll find a whole world inside. So, even our long tale is only one of these. Great witches who live on a far, far higher plane than we do are hardly any different from a creator or God. From their perspective, our little tale is worth little more than a single book, if it's even worth that. From a theater-goer's perspective, our individual lives are hardly worth anything at all. If they're recording an entire world in a single volume, then my life probably isn't even worth a single line. But we're the main characters. I am, and so are you. That's right. Even if the tale of the gods doesn't mention us, we're always the main characters in the stories we write for ourselves. Becoming aware of that fact is the first thing that separates witches from humans. They were on a balcony, which was really a room-sized section that had been dug out of the bookshelf, with no guardrail along the cliff. It didn't go in very deep, so it looked like a room that had been cut in half. It was filled with the tools of everyday life, as though this was Erica's hidden house. My master has ordered me to serve you some tea, so if you don't feel like drinking, I'll have to pour it into you with a funnel. If you try, I'll have to serve you some matcha. Matcha? Nothing. Just talking to myself. Ignoring Erica as she made tea, Angie looked down upon the bizarre, otherworldly scene below. Until Erica finished getting the tea ready, the scene held Angie's gaze like it was sucking out her soul. This might sound strange, coming from me. What? You actually made a deal to throw away your life to learn the truth, huh? That's impressive. I had nothing to gain from life. It was easy for me to trade away the time I had left. My master really does take to idle whims. To think she would make a contract for the meaningless life of a powerless girl. Angie chuckled, not bothering to argue. That was exactly right. How incredible that Berncastle would lend her power to a worthless life that was trying to throw itself away. Well, my master's the witch who controls miracles. So it makes sense that she'd appear even for a worthless girl like you. Good point. Even if Berncastle hadn't appeared, I still would have taken that step off the edge that day. You really are a cheap and easy woman, aren't you? Well then, just how much are you worth? Me? The way Erica cackled was disturbing. Still, Angie realized that this was her way of answering the question. people don't become witches of their own choosing. If they're capable of living, all people want to live their lives as humans. When something comes along to trip up that life, that's when the road to living as a witch opens. Even Furuto Erika, who calls herself the Witch of Truth, must be like this. The two witches of truth, sitting there drinking tea without even looking at each other, are exactly the same. I like exposing the truth. Know that. I like exposing secrets, and watching those people turn pale as they wonder how I figured it out. That's when I know I have reached the truth, and it's a moment of ecstasy. There's something seriously wrong with you. Well then, what does the truth mean to you? Angie was about to give an immediate answer, but she baked back her words. Then she gulped, not knowing how to respond. After all, to Angie, the truth itself was the goal. At first, it was out of hatred. Could Ushima Eva, the sole survivor of Rokkenjima, be the culprit behind everything? She hated Eva, but she had no proof that her aunt was the culprit. And of course, Eva never talked about what happened on that island. So at first, the truth meant proof that Eva was the culprit, in Angie's eyes. However, that feeling withered away with Eva's death. Now that Eva was dead, even if Angie did find some kind of proof, it wouldn't mean anything. So eventually, the truth Angie wanted to find became nothing more than the simple desire to know what happened on that island that day. However, one thing was obvious. Even if she did find out the truth, that wouldn't bring any of her family back to her. It might not mean anything at all. You're going to expose the truth to your beloved Oni-chan is hiding, even though it's meaningless? You're the one who's not making sense. Erika laughed mockingly. Angie laughed too, as though she agreed. And so, my own truth became my goal. Maybe you could even call it my reason for living. So, once you do reach the truth, there won't be any point or purpose to you living anymore, right? That's right. So I'll die. Hasn't it been long enough? I've already lived 12 years too long. Don't I at least deserve to have a witch appear and grant my wish in my final moments? Or, to put it simply, you're just tired of life. Does that sum it up? Yeah. So, both my reason for living and my very existence are completely meaningless. And that's why this goal of finding the Book of the Single Truth has put a little sparkle back into my life, now that it's nearly over. At least on that score, I'm grateful to Burncastle. I see. Battler wants you to live, so he hit the goal line that would lead you to death. I think I pity Battler-san for the first time. After all, you can't choose your little sister. Sorry, Oni-chan. I'm tired of life. For 12 whole years, I've been living off nothing but the illusion that someone might come home someday. Just let me find peace already. Finding the truth of that day is how I've chosen to mark the end of my life. For 12 years I've believed in a miracle, but there was no miracle. I won't believe in miracles anymore. The Book of the Single Truth, huh? Of course, I'm also dying to find out what's in it. But from what I hear, it doesn't sound like the truth inside is something spectacular enough to mark the end of your life with. Yeah. At first I hoped there would be something earth-shattering in it. But now, I've calmed down, I guess you could say. Any truth searched for by a worthless person is bound to be worthless. It'll probably make for a fitting end to your worthless life. Yeah, I'm sure it will. And she was already starting to realize something. regardless of Eva's reason for staying silent. The real events of that day probably weren't anything earth-shattering. Some sort of malfunction made the bomb in that secret underground base explode. Yes, it was just an accident. But the public already believed that some sort of conspiracy surrounded the events of that day, so that's what they expected. Eva was the suspect herself, so of course no one believed her claim that nothing strange happened. Naturally, Angie didn't believe her either. In that case, shutting up like a clam would be better than the alternative. It was hardly surprising that Eva chose to say nothing. Right now, I don't feel any sense of accomplishment. I just feel sort of worn out and listless. Being able to withstand the truth is what makes someone a witch of truth. Comrade Angie, it looks like you don't possess that strength at all. If you did, you wouldn't be thinking about dying. You're right. I've dreamed that someone might come back for 12 years. I've just used Beatrice's cat box to shut away the truth, denying it for all that time. When you read the book of the single truth, I wonder what will happen to you. Who knows? Won't Bernkastel carry out the contract by slicing my head off with a scythe or something? Or will I be turned into chunks of meat again? Maybe I'll get some salt and pepper this time. I see. So that's where the chunks of meat thing came from. Did you say something? Nope, nothing at all. Anyway, would you like some more tea? No, thank you. Angie listlessly gazed down from the balcony with no hardrail. Down into the darkness of the abyss at the bottom of the bookshelf ravine. No, the gap between the bookshelf skyscrapers. From the beginning until the end of my journey, I haven't taken a single step away from this spot. This journey of mine, not even a single step long, will end soon. What are those lines of lights floating around at the bottom? Oh, those? Probably a group of guests coming to the great Lady Aurora's party. Guests? Great witches from the Senate, Voyager witches who are trying to escape boredom in their endless travels. Powerful witches who have woken from century-long sleeps, as well as witches who control the future world and noble witch hunters. It seems she's planning to hold a grand party tonight. What? Is it a birthday party or something? From what I've heard, while the great Lady Beatrice, the Endless Witch, is an outsider among witches, she's also the genius who created Beatrice's cat box out of her formidable magical compendium, an endless factory capable of producing endless tales. From my point of view, she's just stupid and a weak finisher, but in the world of great witches, she's apparently pretty famous. So this is Beatrice's birthday party? My master says she'll be holding a dinner party with Beatrice's guts. After all, it's only natural, right? The cat box was only able to generate infinite tales because there was no single truth. However, tonight, the single truth will be revealed, thanks to your key. And that means the cat box will be opened. Really, it's no different from slicing open her chest as she still lives and tearing out what's inside. Everyone in that huge crowd that looks like a packed freeway is going to the dinner party? One dinner party? I'm not sure what's stronger, my shock at how famous Beatrice is, or my revulsion at those sleazebags. For you, the Book of the Single Truth is nothing more than an end. However, for all those enjoying the mystery of Arkanjima, this is an event that can't be missed. I see. So, that's a crowd of those goats who were chewing Oni-chan's game board apart. Angie's analogy was an accurate one. The crowd, far, far below them, was made up of nobles wearing beautiful outfits and goat masks. They were all so intent on tearing the guts out of Beatrice's cat box that they couldn't even hide the drool licking from their mouths. Those gluttonous goat nobles who derived pleasure from the violence of exposing the truth were in a line of cars heading towards the meeting place. Looks like this is the end for Beatrice and the cat box. Beato and the others have holed up in the Golden Lands, the last remnants of the game board. Battler and Beato have strengthened their defenses and have destroyed the first wave, but they won't be able to stop the second. My master has given me an armada capable of destroying the very concept of defensive measures. The Golden Land's ramparts are as good as gone. Those goats who appeared all over the island, they're the personification of random opinions in the future, and all of them want this island's tale to be a tragedy. That's right. Those ghosts keep getting born in the sea of the internet. That first wave was just the riffraff. The second wave will be entirely different. It's made up of the best, elite goats selected from the crowd that are capable of denying all the cowering pieces one by one. In total, they number in the hundreds of thousands. 100,000 people to deny the existence of a few dozen hiding on an island. Looks like this is it for Oni-chan too. Are you sure you're ready? You understand that Ushumiya Battler died in 1986, and that this man is an illusion created by the cat box? Yeah, I understand. Regardless of whether he's my real brother or an illusion. Regardless of whether he's who I'd like him to be or not. The Battler who created this game board for my sake will die. No, I'm just going to accept the fact that he was already dead, so it's not like he's actually going to die. And she thought to herself, shouldn't performing her brother's last rites be her responsibility? This was her final trial, which she had assigned to herself. All of those people down on the game board were the personification of Angie's naivety. By denying the existence of all of them, would she finally be able to accept the truth? No, that's not right. I'm not being honest even with myself. That bizarre Halloween party may have been an illusion, but that didn't make it any less heartwarming. Oni-chan said it himself. True, that Halloween party may have been an illusion. However, he was trying to use that party to tell me something. About that second wave. My master has appointed me to be their commander. Leave it to me, Anji-san. My master isn't so malicious that she'd make you dirty your own hands. Yes, that might be kind of her. These are my lingering attachments we're talking about. I should be grateful to Burncastle. If she really were cruel, she would probably have ordered me to take charge of the second wave and execute my own family. Comrade Angie, you're a witch of truth, aren't you? That's right. Probably. Then accept the truth, okay? Finally, after 12 years, the single truth lies before you. I'll just sit around here until Burncastle breaks the seal. You'll probably be summoned as a guest for her party. We've got a mirror, so maybe you should wipe the sleep from your eyes. And maybe you should shave before heading out to battle. It floated there in the empty air, the door to the Golden Land. At its base, there was nothing except some floor tiling about as thick as a rug, so it was fairly hard to imagine that this was Kinzo's study. By this point, all of the game board except the Golden Land had been eaten away, leaving only this door floating in a sea of nothingness. There were two shapes in front of that door. They were Battler and Beato. They may not have been literally covered with wounds, but they definitely seemed to be dead tired. Battler, leaning against the door, seemed to have finally caught his breath. Beato was also sitting against the door, letting her legs dangle gracelessly. Could the battle against the force really be called a battle? It was more like a mere pushing contest on the increasingly small bit of ground that remained. They had wanted to protect at least Kinzo's study no matter what, and the only fruit of their desperate struggle was the thin bit of flooring that they were sitting on now. Those goats fell into the abyss whenever they had nowhere to stand, so now, with so much of the floor gone, there was no way for them to attack anymore. If Battler thought this, his naive hopes were quickly crushed. Looks like we're surrounded. They probably plan to gather their forces and crush us in a single stroke. Stretching across the ocean horizon that surrounded the door at their backs was an encirclement of countless large sailing ships. As they could clearly see, the decks of those ships were packed with goats, with some of the more foolish and overeager ones spilling over the edges into the emptiness below. Dang. I've gone through a lot of crazy stuff in your games. But being surrounded by pirate ships is definitely a first for me. They probably do possess the strength to break through the Golden Land's perimeter. Those cannons are no bluff. Doubtless they will be able to use those to smash through this door and pour in. Along the sides of each ship were several open gun ports, each with a cannon pointing at the door. This many ships all around them fired all of those at once. There was no point trying to imagine what would happen next. Battler and Beato grimaced and hung their heads. How long will the Golden Perimeter hold out against those cannons? I do not know. However, since they are still awaiting reinforcements after massing that many soldiers, I doubt the barrier will break that easily. True. I can't think of any other reason to delay your attack without even sending terms for surrender. I hope we can take advantage of this time they give us. Time is always the ally of the weaker side. After all, we can always hope for a miracle. Though it might just lead us further into despair. At that moment, something small and hard hit Battler in the forehead. Ow! The heck is this? Conpeto? It's me. I know where Bern and the others are. The candy was Lambda Delta's transformed body. She was the only one of their allies capable of crossing the sea of fragments. Spectacular! That's the great Lady Lambda Delta for you. They can see us here. Let's talk inside. This is starting to get messy. Got it. Is anyone there? When Battler knocked on the door, it opened and Shannon and Cannon came into view. You called for us? My apologies, but we need you to keep a lookout. Leave it to us. When they begin their attack, don't worry about fighting them. Escape to the Golden Land as soon as they start. Don't worry about closing the door. But that means they're planning to ignore the door and smash the Golden Land directly. Making a last stand here won't do anyone any good. I understand. We'll take care of things here. We'll go inside and work on a counterattack. We shall. We're counting on you. Battler and Beato traded places with Shannon and Cannon and returned to the Golden Land. A gentle rain poured down over the Golden Land's rose garden. The weather here reflected the hearts of those inside it. The quietly falling raindrops spoke for the pain they felt by those who could do nothing but hide here, waiting for the enemy's final assault. When they returned to the arbor, that piece of conpeto flew out of Battler's pocket, jumped onto the table, and returned to its original form. I haven't had her like this for years. Hard to believe I'd find myself in such a tense situation, even after becoming a witch. Let's get down to business. To defeat the Huns. Where the heck are Angie and Burncastle? They're in the City of Books? I've heard of it. They say it's a place where great witches travel to the sea. There are countless fragments in the form of books. You mean the Great Witch of theater-going, drama, and spectating noble city of carefully selected books, yes? The Great Lady Aurora is the ruler of the City of Books. Indeed, that would be a fitting place for those two to go. Nice going, Lady Lambda Delta. Hard to believe you could pick out that spot so quickly from all the other possible hiding places. Actually, it was pretty easy. I didn't even have to search, since they're advertising it as loud as they can. They're planning a huge party to celebrate the announcement of the great secret. The secret to the cat box of the great Lady Beatrice, the Endless Witch. I see. They have been delaying their attack because they await reinforcements, but because the party has not yet begun. So, in this party, they plan to use Angie's key and reveal the contents of the Book of the Single Truth. You've got it. Aurora hasn't held an event like this for ages, and she's gathering VIP guests from all over the place. The Book of the Single Truth will probably be the party's final showpiece. That means we still have a shot at taking Angie and the key back. Time-wise, that may be true. However, there's a really simple and obvious problem. What? The City of Books is a sacred realm under the supervision of the Senate. It's protected by a holy barrier. Only a witch of the Senate can enter it. Have they invited any non-senators to the party? They have. It looks like they've been given special invitations, which allow them to enter the sacred realm for a limited time. Invitations. My. Now this could be interesting. That's what I thought. However, there's a strict policy on punctuality, so these invitations automatically become useless unless you present them before the party begins. And I'm afraid to say that the party started a short while ago. In other words, it's too late to try stealing an invitation from a guest who's running late. That's right. So, what do we do now? Someone get popcorn? I'd like some candy flavor this time. As an outsider, I hate to barge into this conversation, but we seem to have no options left. We're already done for, aren't we? Can't we do anything except sit here until they attack? There must be something we can do. That's right. There's just one thing we can do. What's that? We can keep on struggling for each second of survival, and hope for a miracle. A miracle? So, we're stuck defending the Alamo. Surrender isn't an option. We can only hold out as long as we can, waiting for a miracle. What kind of miracle? There's a chance, maybe 1 in a million, that Angie will change her mind for some reason and come back. With a probability such as that, it truly would be a miracle. We are here to await Angie-san's return. Yes. This right here is the only place Angie-san can call home. So we must defend it to the last minute, waiting for her to come back. Awaiting the return of one's master is a servant's duty. Now that we are here, I go to and prepare for whatever may come. Battler-sama, all of us are prepared. We of the Fiesta Sisters in Imperial Guard will fulfill our oath and remain by the great Lady Beatrice's side until the bitter end. 45 here. No problem. I will fight until the end. Finally, a fitting place to die, yeah? No problems from 410, yeah? The seven sisters of Purgatory will stay with Beatrice-sama and Battler-sama until it's all over. The 6 younger sisters also showed their resolve with their eyes. Aiser and Jungfrau will serve until the end. The former SSVDs got your back too. And I ask that you lend us your power as well. Me? No way. Didn't I just give you some excellent intel? I think I've done more than my fair share, don't you? How do you know that Anji-chan is in the City of Books? I saw her with my own eyes, of course. I never trust anything unless I see it for myself. Which means you're qualified to enter the sacred realm called the City of Books, right? Indeed. The great Lady Lambda Delta, of which is the Senate, after all. Lambda Delta. What's with you guys? You aren't going to tell me to do more work, are you? My, what an unexpected development. Lady Lambda Delta is the only one who can enter the City of Books. What could that possibly mean? That this is Lady Lambda Delta's time to shine? I'm not getting around. Are you people crazy? You're telling me to go, all by myself, and sneak into there one more time, and then bring Angie back out here? And several dozen people surrounding Lady Lambda Delta all nodded in unison. How stupid can you be? If I save Angie, I'll be crashing the Great Aurora's party. Get it? I'd have the whole world as my enemy. And what's in it for me? Nothing, obviously. There's nothing you could possibly offer me. That'd be worth getting on the bad side of Aurora and her monster friends. You'll get to see a happy ending where Aurora and Burncastle's schemes are crushed. Angie comes back and everyone makes peace with one another. What do you say, Lady Lambda Delta? There could be no greater thrill. If you pull off such a marvelous feat, you would be able to forget your illness for 1,000 years, would you not? We're begging you, Lambda Delta. Lend us your power. Please, please, we're begging you. Help us save Angie. Everyone surrounded Lambda Delta, asking her for her help. Please, Lady Lambda Delta. Only you can do this. Give us your strength. I'll show you the greatest of tales. And you'll get to see it from the front row. So please, lend us your strength. Shut up! Shut the hell up! Lambda Delta leapt to her feet and crushed a cup of popcorn in her hands. Sweet, candy-flavored popcorn flew all over the place, hitting everyone in the face. It might have looked funny. However, no one laughed. Lambda Delta's face was filled with a rage that none of them had seen before. Please, stop getting the wrong idea. I'm a spectator. A spectator! I'm just a guest who was invited by Beato to come and watch this game. So why should I risk my life for you people? You think you'll get a happy ending if Angie comes back? Are you really that stupid? Burn and her forces will come sweeping through here, mad with rage, and wipe us all out. There's only one reason I'm here. And that's because Leon over there said I'd get to see an interesting show. Yeah, and now I'm sure I'll get to see a sublimely interesting tale very soon. A sad, sad tragedy as you fight desperately against Burn's forces and get wiped out one by one. Oh, I'm sure you'll each get one last time to shine as you're torn apart. If I just wait a little, I'll get to see all that, won't I? Pretty soon all of you will be dead. But not me. I'm a spectator, a guest. There's absolutely no reason for me to die with you. No one was able to say a word. In the still silence, where there was no sound except that of the rain, even Lambda Delta finally hung her head in dismay. I'm sorry. I'm totally lame, aren't I? Sure, if I stood up right now and said, leave it to me, my popularity would surge and I'd probably make it near the top 3 in the next character ranking contest. But still, unlike the rest of you, I'm not a character who appears in the story. I can't die. It's like it's midnight and you're telling me that the climax of the show is coming up next. But tomorrow's Monday. I've got early cleaning duty at school. I live in completely different worlds. And so... Lambda Delta staggered as though dizzy and plopped down into a chair. Then she became expressionless like a doll, just staring at a single point in space silently. Sorry. Battler softly apologized. However, Lambda Delta remained expressionless. It's not fair for us to force you to risk something on your own. Not when we haven't yet exhausted all our options. We'll fight here and defend the spot until the last moment. We'll believe in the miracle of Angie choosing us over the single truth. If we weren't prepared to do that, we could hardly ask you to give up your life along with the rest of us. Battler rose from his seat and span around. Battler. I'll switch places with the pair outside. When the enemy comes, I want to be in the front lines. That's the fastest and most direct way I can show Lambda Delta my determination. I shall go as well. Teacher, please find Lady Lambda Delta some more popcorn. Beato. I know Angie will return. Without belief, even miracles that might have occurred will not. You can't win a lottery unless you buy a ticket. Beato also stood up and followed Battler. Everyone, let's do what we can to prepare for the fight. Yeah. It'd be stupid to just sit around here doing nothing. Good point. Let's at least give him a good show at the end. We've got to make sure there's a place Angie-chan can call home. We should hold a strategic conference too. Yeah. We have furniture, weapons, demons, and inquisitors on our side. There's got to be some way for these mismatched forces to cooperate. Let's go, little sisters. Break time is over. Siesta troops, rise. The humans and illusions all rose to their feet and left the arbor. Afterwards, only Lambda Delta remained, still staring blankly at a point in empty space. Is it bad of me to say that after spending 7 games watching everybody die, we're suddenly supposed to want to see them live? That black tea smells nice. Is it instant? From a tea bag. Oh, would you like some too, Comrade Eva? We're out of cups, so I'll have to use the funnel. A gold butterfly drifted onto the balcony and turned into Eva. How's Berncastle doing? Will it be a while longer before she breaks the seal on the book of the single truth? That's what I came to talk about. She says the seal has been broken. Congratulations. So the time has finally come. The period to mark the end of your life. Take the key and go to Lady Berncastle. One of her cat familiars will guide you. 2 emerald sparkles flew in. They were the green, glinting eyes of a black cat. The cat flicked its tail elegantly, with the dignity of a high-class attendant. Got it. Then I'll be back in a bit. Angie rose from her seat. She did it casually, as though she really was just heading out for a short trip. However, her lips would probably never touch her half-finished cup of tea again. We weren't together long, but I enjoyed it. Getting to learn what disgusts you. What disgust for your own kind is there? We weren't together long, but I enjoyed it. Getting to learn what disgust for your own kind is like was an enlightening experience. The same here. Next time we meet, you'll have to teach me the trick to making tea this terrible. Are you happy? Now you'll finally get to learn that secret I've been hiding from you these past 12 years. I'm happy. Yeah. Now I can understand how Erica feels. It's like I'm taking a shot back at you, exposing the secret that you kept until your death. And is it a good feeling? Well, it's better than nothing. Angie nodded towards the black cat to let it know that she was ready. The cat nodded back in a refined manner, indicated that it wanted Angie to follow, and leapt from the balcony. Without turning back, Angie followed it, jumping out into the air as though swimming. Eva watched her go. An expression of ridicule and scorn sailed across her face. Good luck, Angie. This is the path you've chosen. You aren't 6 years old anymore. You're 18. Choose how to live your own life. What an overprotective aunt you are. I'm gonna watch the ceremony. What about you? It's almost time to begin the attack, so I'm heading for the ships. I've got to go pick up Beato's corpse. Everyone at the party can have her guts, but I get to keep her skin. Let's stuff and mount it. So, even Rakunjima's tale, which was wrapped in a veil of mysteries, is about to meet its end. Which means it's also the end for you. I mean, you are a piece from there, right? A piece is all I am. The role of a piece is to remain faithful to its role until the game ends. It's not a piece's place to worry about what happens after the game is over. True. And it's the same for me. Let's both enjoy this time while we have it. Well then, allow me to take my leave. Later. Good luck with your work. After exchanging elegant bows, the two witches vanished at the same time. Nothing remained except some half-finished teacups and the aroma of the tea itself. One after another, luxury cars stopped in front of a high-class hotel in the city, and guests began to step out of them. Hey, Professor Utsuki! Oh, what a surprise! I haven't seen you since the last convention! All of the guests gathered here were very rich and cultured. A single hobby tied all of them together. They were witch hunters, like-minded people who enjoyed exploring various interpretations of the Rakunjima mystery. Still, I wonder if it's really true, to think that this diary of Ushime Eva actually exists. True. I have heard the rumors myself. This is that legendary secret diary which Ushime Eva hid away just before her death. It is said that she recorded the details of Rakunjima's truth in there. Just like that fable of the king with the donkey's ears. Humans are tragic creatures, incapable of keeping truly silent regarding secrets only they could know. From what I've heard, a collector from Dubai offered to buy it for $10 million. Incredible. More evidence of the fascination that the Rakunjima mystery is capable of stirring. Conversations like this were breaking out passionately all over the place. Furthermore, it wasn't just guests who were allowed to enter. The press was also there in force. The Rakanjima mystery was such a large movement that it became a social phenomenon at one point. Though it had died down slightly in recent years, it was still a topic fiercely debated across the internet. It was hardly any surprise that the discovery and imminent release of Umineko diary, which contained the truth of that mystery, had caused an uproar. And on top of all that, the mysterious forger, Itoi Kukuro, was to appear publicly for the first time. In fact, it seemed that Itoi Kukuro and Hachijo Toya, the up-and-coming mystery novelist, were the same person. Of course, this meant that Hachijo Toya would also be appearing in public for the first time. Though she was thought to be a male author, the fact that she was actually a mysterious woman author alone was enough to cause a stir. Before the diary unveiling party, a press conference was held in one of the rooms of the hotel. Indeed, I am Hachijo Toya. Madam Hachijo, you know that in your previous book signings you were so determined not to show yourself that you even used a body double. So what has caused you to change your mind and appear before us this time? The legend of the Rakanjima witch has given birth to endless tales. Considering the weight of such a legend's demise, and being the mere writer that I am, I felt obliged to show myself as a sign of respect. As a forger, you announced on the web that you had reached the truth. Does that mean you've already read the contents of that diary? And very soon, those contents will be revealed to everyone. Pardon me for asking, but is there any guarantee that the contents of the diary are the truth? One might view it as nothing more than a personal account from a single deceased person. Not at all. I guarantee it. The truth is recorded in this diary. Oh, a stir passed through the crowd, and the room was suddenly filled with camera flashes. This ends Madame Hachijo's interview. Allow us to express our deep gratitude towards all members of the press for coming on this day. And now, we would like to move on and allow you to take photos of Madame Umineko diary. A hotel worker pushed forward a cart covered by a veil. Then, after looking to Hachijo for approval, he removed the veil. There lay Umineko diary. The book of the single truth sat there, waiting for its seal to be released. Hachijo held it to her chest and laughed enigmatically. Camera flashes came from everywhere, making the book of the single truth glint. And that is all for now. If you would all please move to the assembly hall. Still holding the diary, Hachijo left the press conference room, escorted by men from the hotel, until she went through a door that said authorized personnel only. The journalists continued to surround her and ask questions, hoping to gather just one more comment. When the door slammed shut, the world twisted. The hotel employees became black cats wearing capes. Hachijo had turned into Featherin. Things are getting pretty crazy out there. Did you enjoy it? How tiring. Still, that went well. And yet this diary truly is heavy. Featherin tossed the diary and Berncastle caught it. I will rest in one of the waiting rooms. I'm gonna be up again pretty soon. There's no time to rest. In that case, call it a short break so that I can properly enjoy this long-awaited excitement. I need to borrow that book. I promised Angie that I'd show her first. I see. In that case, do as you please. Featherin left, followed by her cat attendants. After watching her until she was out of sight, Berncastle disappeared as well. Like Erica's room, Berncastle's was a balcony without a handrail, dug out of a bookshelf cliff. Angie had been waiting for some time, but she had waited patiently, looking down at the world below her. I'm late, aren't I? Sorry about that. After Burncastle appeared, the black cats gave a bow and vanished. Here you go. I've brought it with me. The book of the single truth. Can I touch it? Do as you like. Burncastle set it on the table and beckoned Angie forward. Slowly, Angie approached it. So, this is Aunt Eva's diary. That's right. Inside it, you'll find the single truth that you wanted. You do have the key, right? Yes, right here. Angie took the key out, looked at it there on her palm, then gripped it tightly. Even the heavy lock that held the diary so securely was fated to be swept aside easily as soon as Angie readied herself. I won't rush you. You don't have to open it until you're ready. This includes the truth of what happened at midnight on October 5th, 1986, right? Yes. It has everything that you wanted to know so much you offered up your life. In that instant, two Angies appeared inside of her, taking control of her body at the same time. On the one hand, she knew that she had already paid a great price to learn the truth. This part of her gripped the key, wanting to avoid a second of hesitation that might lead her to refuse to learn the truth now, at the final moment, with the book of the single truth right before her. On the other hand, a feeling as though she was betraying the brother and family who watched over her warmly made her bite her lower lip. However, though she shook, she could do nothing but watch as her right hand slowly brought the key towards the lock. What am I hesitating for? Inside this diary is the final destination of my sad, painful 12-year-long journey. Wasn't 12 years enough? Do I want to keep living that way? That brother is an illusion created by my heart, my naive hope that a miracle might still occur. If I put my two options on a scale, then the path I should choose is clear. Slowly, I pushed the key into the lock, and twisted. The lock opened with a click, and at the same time it felt as though a crack ran through the key in my hands. Maybe a part of that intricate design had fallen off. I couldn't tell where it was broken just by glancing at it. However, for some reason, its golden glint seemed dulled somehow. It's because you've made your choice with that key. A bit of magic has disappeared. What kind of magic? Didn't Battler tell you? He said you couldn't hand that over to anyone else. That magic, which left the decision to you, has just fulfilled its role and disappeared. That key is just a key now. It can't do anything but lock and unlock that diary. I see. Then I guess I have no more use for Oni-chan's key. Can I have it? Once you've read the diary, I'll lock it up again. Opening that lock will be a big part of tonight's ceremony, it seems. I see. Do whatever you want. I don't give a damn about what happens after I find the truth. Burncastle slid the key from where it lay on the table and put it into her pocket. Go ahead then. Before the courage that led you here fades. I lifted up Aunt Eva's now unlocked diary. The lock was unset. Even the hinge had been released by now. Nothing stands in the way of me opening up to the pages within. I thought of taking a deep breath. However, I decided against it. I prepared myself for this long ago. It'd be so stupid to feel my reluctance further. I opened it. Violently, ruthlessly. I knew that this was the right way to open to the pages that held the truth. As soon as the cover was opened, a brilliant light poured out, and my mind went hazy. The truth was sent to my mind directly, without letters or words. Tell me, what happened that day on Rockinjima? My consciousness returned gradually. Nothing was written in the open book before me. Of course, this was my own blank and empty notebook. I was at school, just sitting idly with my notebook open. The world had stopped. The hands on the clock had stopped too. In that case, the auditorium should have been filled with silence. However, I could hear a small commotion. In this world of suspended time, I could see dark shapes sneaking about in the shadows of the unmoving students. They were students with goat heads. They were sneaking glances at me from behind the frozen students, whispering something to each other. I know. I can hear them. Everybody knows. One after another, students with goat heads grew out of shadows all over the room. They slipped around all the students stopped in time, and gathered around me. Then they all jeered out something in unison, and, as if they knew I could hear, showered me with giggles and gossip and sneers. However, nothing that came from the goats' mouths reached my ears as words. This was a world without letters or words, so no words reached me. However, their emotions and meanings did reach me, so I knew what it was they were saying, and then when I was able to visualize it. One after another, the goats opened their massive jaws, showing their fangs that dripped with saliva, and came forward to bite me. Time was stopped for me. I was aware, but I could not move. That wasn't literally true. However, I was pretending that I couldn't hear, so I couldn't move. The goats bit me all over my body, leaving their fang marks, licking me. Maybe they didn't like the taste of my clothes. Taking advantage of the fact that I couldn't move, they chewed through my clothes one by one. Over and over again, the goats sucked their tongues, their jaws, their fangs under my naked body. I was covered with drool and bitten all over. Bright red teeth marks were left behind as sharp fangs pierced my skin, leaving trails of blood. They licked up that blood like real goats, hurting and humiliating me. As I hung my head, one of the goats pulled on my hair, forcing me to look up, and spoke. They didn't say it with concepts, but with words I could hear. However, they weren't words of the human world. They were a witch's words, the red truth which signifies truth that is certain. This is the truth of the Rakanjima incident. I won't accept it. It doesn't matter if you accept it or not. This is the truth. After all. I won't accept it. I won't accept the truth like that. Like that. Whether you accept it or not, that does not change the truth. After all, this is the single truth, proven in red. Cares about the truth. So stupid. So pointless. I'm the one who gets to decide if that's the truth or not, right? Even if it's red truth, I won't acknowledge it. Won't forgive it. Definitely won't accept it. The red truth is absolute? Who for? It's absolute for you guys, right? Not for me. I won't let you contaminate my truth with yours. Andy, calm down. You're the one who wanted to know, right? My truth is that Antiva's the culprit. Antiva killed everyone. Everything's her fault. Dad and Mom and Oni-chan and all the others are just victims. It's no one's fault. No one's fault. Of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. Your aunt will always be on your side, Angie-chan. Oh, I get it now. I know what you meant. That's right, Auntie. You're the culprit. You're the culprit. It's the world that's messed up and broken for not realizing that. I'm the right one. I'll deny the red truth. Deny the whole world. I see. In that case, by writing a red truth only you can write. And how is it possible for a human to write with red truth? It is possible. There's a red ink that only humans can write with. Enji-san, please calm down. I'm the right one. The world's wrong. I'll write it. I'll record the truth of the real red truth. 20. Requesting urgent support on the roof. Angie-san, hold on. Please think this over. Look out! Goodbye, Angie. Have a nice day. I'll write it out. This is my blood-red truth. I'll never accept the truth of your world. Angie's body went past the edge of the balcony. The air, which she had once been able to swim through, was now completely merciless for some reason. Angie's body plunged straight into the darkness below. Berncastle just watched the scene play out in silence. Behind her, men in black suits rushed up to the fence, clutching it and screaming. 20! Angie-san jumped off! Damn, I can't see her from here. Hey, quickly, investigate the ground area. It's no use. There's no way. Maybe she was caught by the safety net. Let's make sure. What fools. If you jump straight down from this height, do you really think such a flimsy safety net could possibly save you? As the Witch of Miracles, I, Berncastle, guarantee that such a miracle certainly won't occur. Angie's body fell from the skyscraper like bookshelf and slammed against the floor of the City of Books. Looking down from Berncastle's balcony, which was as high as the skyscraper's roof, did it look like a lovely red pressed flower? No, you couldn't see it at all. Just like how the death of a single lonely girl who rejected the world didn't matter to anyone in the world. She probably died instantly. It was only natural. She had fallen straight down from this height after all. Is it even conceivable that she wouldn't die instantly after something like that? The index finger on the right hand of her corpse stuck out as though it was tracing something. Could it be that by some impossible miracle she really had escaped an instant death? And could the red blood that had drained from her at the moment of her death have been the ink that drew her own personal red truth? However, no one would ever be able to tell what she had written. After all, red blood pouring from her corpse had run over it all. Even this was one of your choices, Angie. Eva was looking down at the beautiful flower of blood radiating from Angie's corpse. I tried to keep you alive. However, you never tried to live in the future that began after the age of 6. And so, after 12 years, you finally returned to where you started. The eyes on Angie's corpse were closed. However, there was no way of knowing if this was a peaceful thing. Eventually, the corpse began to melt away. At the end, it had become a messy lump of flesh with only a few parts recognizable as human. It was hardly surprising. How else would she look after falling from that height and slamming against the asphalt? You managed to die. However, this doesn't mean that everyone will be waiting for you in heaven. After all, you reached this place by rejecting all of those in heaven. See you in hell. No, that's probably where we are right now. So long, Angie. Oh, Eva. Perfect timing. Did you call for me, my master? Clean up the scrap meat for me, if you wouldn't mind. I'm going to take this back. In Berncastle's hands were the key, which had lost its magic when Angie made her decision, and the book of the single truth, which had been locked up again. As you wish, my master. After looking down one more time, Berncastle vanished. When she had gone, Eva summoned some cat familiars and ordered them to clean up. The black cats gathered Angie's flesh and scattered limbs and threw them into a tin bucket. Even in this miserable form, Angie's soul was still living. Perhaps living is a poor description. She was unable to die. From now on, forever, she would drift along in the deepest depths of oblivion, covered by the dust of oblivion, until she finally disappeared. She continued to question herself. What did the truth mean to her? What was right, and where was the place she could call home? As her flesh began to cool, even the energy to ask these questions began to fade. Eventually, she would forget her everyday memories, and even the reason why she was suffering. However, there was one thing she could never forget, and that was the anguish. From this point forth, she would suffer endlessly without even knowing why. By the time the cats finished flinging her corpse into the bucket and dumping it into the sea of nothingness, Angie had forgotten even her own name. Well, alright then. I believe that'll be a stopping point. I see. I disagree with suicide. That's a personal moral belief. But I also believe in knowing the truth. And there's a time and place for holding back, such as Santa Claus, letting a child believe in them, but hoping that they believe in it for the rest of their lives would be a disservice to them. They've grown up. They've grown past the point they need to believe in something that isn't there. And so the truth comes out, and the truth is then revealed. And you have to accept the truth for what it is. The truth. It is what is. Now, again, that doesn't mean just go out saying the truth to everybody who will listen and trying to force it down their throats. The people need to accept the truth. They need to be able to do that. And so it's a bit of a balance figuring out when that point is. Another part of me is everybody can make their own choices. Everybody can believe what they want and do what they want. But it's in everybody's own hands to determine their own life. But the truth is the truth, one way or the other. It's like trying to deny the truth that so-and-so killed somebody. They didn't do it. It didn't happen. It was an accident. You're denying the truth. You're not hiding it. You're flat out denying what is and living in a world that does not exist while trying to live in a world that does. It doesn't match up. It doesn't work that way. So but that's life, and life is messy. Anyway, that'll be it for today. Thank you for sticking around and watching. And we'll continue this one next week. Let's see where it goes from here. If there's much more to go. Have a good one, guys. See you later.